All right. Good morning, everyone.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
We are officially live. We are live on YouTube and on Facebook.
YouTube, Facebook. Let me
There
just
we are.
get rid of my friends on Facebook. Hallelujah. So good, so good, so good.
For the record, we can actually see people's comments as they come in, and so feel free to engage with us in the comments. There you go. So, like we just saw, Dana just said good morning, and
Good
Jakina is also
morning.
there.
And Jakina. Good morning, Jakina. Good morning, Dana.
There we go. So just keep engaging with us in the comments. We'll read some of those comments as they come in. But how are you doing, Dr. Dennis and Lisa?
How are you, Josh? How you doing,
Hi,
Lisa?
Josh.
It's so good to be here. Such an honor, such a privilege.
It's so fun.
Yes, yes.
Dr. Dennis, we're here. Do you
Yes,
believe it? The book launch. Oh my
I know.
gosh.
Yeah.
I know.
People-ology. I think everyone's been waiting for something like this for sure.
Mm-hmm. Dr.
It's
Dennis, I just want to ask. I never got to ask you, like, how long was the process from when the
Woo.
inception of the idea and to this point where we're launching it today?
Yeah, the idea, the whole concept of managing people has just been something that bugged me since I was like a little kid. I was like,
Mhm.
wow, okay, you can know what to do, you can know how to do stuff, but the people with whom to do. Even then, when I got saved, it was like, okay, Jesus loves me. We're all going to heaven. But this was always okay, good. You could figure it out by reading the Word,
Yeah.
that relationship with God, but this was always an issue. It was always
Right.
an issue, man. It's just people fell away not because Jesus didn't move, but because they were offended. We would lose members. As I was little growing up, I was thinking, okay, we're losing people not because God isn't working or they can't understand why He didn't work, but or they were offended by this one. They didn't get what they thought here or there, and so it's been in the making forever until I started scribbling things down, and it's really been a culmination of all the curiosities and injuries, my notes, other people's notes, my stories, other people's stories, which is why the book's loaded with stories.
Right.
Stories.
That's awesome. And
Yeah,
coincidence, well, what others would call coincidence, I'd call divine providence.
come
In
on.
Ecclesia, we're actually doing a series called Doing People, and it just happened to line up with the book launch, and I
Yeah,
thought that was pretty cool.
yeah. Yeah. I was when I saw that, I was like, Josh, that's cool. How? And he's like, guys, I did not.
I
This is
did
I didn't
not
find
do
pre-planned.
that.
divine providence. That's what I'll call that.
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed, it is.
Hey
So
guys,
good.
can I do a little service announcement? I'm getting some
Go
questions coming in
ahead,
Sure.
privately for some of the people. So, for
please.
those of you that will be sharing today, you know who you are. I know that you have a special link that Josh will be letting you in at the appropriate time. I believe messages have been sent out. But if you want to comment on the Facebook page, you have to have two separate devices going on, which is what we mentioned. So, to have the link to be able to be live and communicate like you see Josh, Dr. Dennis, myself on the screen. For those of you that will be on the screen with us, you need to click on the link that we
Right.
sent you. That will be on one device, and Josh will let you in at the appropriate time. If you want to comment on Facebook, also, then you need to have, like, I have Facebook on my phone right now. So I'm on my computer on the link, and I have my phone right here on the ministry page, Dr. Dennis Sempebwa, and and that's how I'm commenting to everybody. So I'm on that. I just turned the volume down on my phone, which I had to figure that out because it was very loud at first. So turn the volume down. And then just click on the comment section and you can comment and we can communicate there. So that's how we're going to do the communicating. And for those of you, you're there live on Facebook. So we're so excited to be here with you. Thank you for joining us. And we have a lot to talk about, Dr. Dennis.
Yes, we do. Shadrach from Uganda. Hi,
Woo-woo.
Shadrach. And Paul Mutevi and Jeannie. I see Evelyn. I see folks here. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hi,
Yeah.
Wow.
everyone.
Missy. Wow. So Louisiana and yeah, Europe is here and Africa. Wow. What an
Where's
honor.
Shadrach? I don't see Shadrach.
I see
I,
Shadrach
I
in the
just slapped his
comments.
comment on the screen right here. He says, "Hello, excited to be here."
How you put him up
He's on.
there?
He's on YouTube. He's commenting on
Oh,
YouTube.
oh, that's why. Okay.
Yeah.
Of
Oh.
course he is. Shadrach, it's great that you're here with us.
Dora, good to see you, Dora. You're from
Dora.
Riverside,
Ah,
yes,
we've
yes.
missed you, Dora. Arizona girl now.
Let's keep the greetings coming in. I think as people log on, maybe a good place to start before we have our wonderful guests share is maybe between the three of us share like one key takeaway that was very significant for you, Dr. Dennis, as you wrote the book. Maybe the idea that stands out the most, and then Lisa, as you read the book, what was that kind of like
Yeah.
just really stuck on you?
Yeah.
Let's start with Lisa.
Okay. I kind of, as I read through the book, I've read through it a couple times. The thought that kept coming through my mind is, where was this book? Like for me, like 25, 30 years ago,
Right.
because I think I could have, my poor heart, I think I could have protected my heart a little bit more if I knew some of the keys that were here. And it's simple, isn't it? And it was kind of like, yeah, like duh, of course, but you don't know if you don't know, right?
Right.
And so you need somebody to point it out. So for me, one of the biggest things, and again, this is, I love this. And Dr. Dennis, you've taught about this also in some of your messages and sermons and stuff, but it's the mango and how I was
That's
like,
what I was gonna say.
oh, sorry. You know
I
what?
think it's something
Look
else.
at my book. It says, right, like I've got stuff highlight. I don't know if you can see it because the light, but right
Yeah.
here, it's big. I wrote the word big. Like that's huge for me because you bite into the mango has, there's a rotten part. I'm going to toss you out. And to hear Dr. Dennis talk about, well, flip it around. And the whole mango isn't bad, right? So
Yes.
the whole person, yes, you might be getting the backlash from that person, but let's look a little deeper and why. Why is that person acting like that? What happened in that person's life? Do you really want to throw that person away? When, because not the whole person isn't bad. And for me, I'm like, yes, they are. And it's like, you hurt me one too many times. You are not allowed to do this anymore, but not realizing. And that was one of the things I wept when I read that the first time.
Wow.
I felt so bad because it was like, oh, Jesus, how many people have I just thrown to the side, you know, and that I could have really salvaged a really great relationship probably. So for me, that was one of the key moments. And Josh, I'm sorry I took yours, but it's a big moment, isn't it?
Yeah,
you know?
it is.
It's
It's at the very start of the book too. It was a great setup for the rest of it.
Yes.
Because we have that tendency to just be dismissive of anything bad. And
yes.
I mean, we even have an expression where it's like, you know, take the meat, spit out the bones, but we don't seem to apply that in our but for me, apart from the mango story that Lisa stole from me,
great minds think alike, Josh.
Exactly. That's what it is. That's what it is. What really stood out was the emphasis or the differentiation between vertical and horizontal relationships.
Yes.
I think when we are raised, we have a very one-dimensional view of relationships. It's like all friends or and kind of just mostly horizontal. But then as I read the book, it emphasized for me how in my life some of the most important relationships have been vertical. Either I as the protege or somebody else kind of following after my footsteps. And so it's so important to recognize that, because if we don't have those vertical relationships, it's hard for us to grow. We'll end up learning from the school of experience a lot more than the school of instruction. To learn from others is so much better than learning from our own experiences. So I think that was really, really cool to highlight that. Because if not, like we're like walking through life making the same mistakes everybody else has already made, when in fact you could have just gleaned from their wisdom and not have to make that mistake. Like my dad speaks of a similar concept a lot of the times, and he's like, rather than watching people make the mistake and learning from that, you're like, oh, I'll make the mistake myself and I'll learn from my own thing. And how foolish that can truly be.
Yes, yes,
So the importance of finding a mentor, trainers in your life
Yes.
to help
Yes.
you go through that. I think
Yes.
that was absolutely
Yes.
beautiful, and it was so well put and well articulated
Yeah.
in the book.
Very much so. And I wish I knew that too. Like, my goodness, I could have had mentors in my life. I didn't think
Right.
anybody wanted to speak into my life.
I didn't think you could
Like,
ask people to do that.
no, no,
It's
not
like,
at
oh,
all.
are they just gonna offer it? Is
Right?
there a website I can log on and sign up
I
for
know.
this stuff?
Looking for a mentor. Yeah. Could you
Yeah,
imagine if we actually did that? Like, what that would, like, the crazy
yeah.
people that's out there.
Right. But I think what's really cool is also recognizing that there are people wanting to mentor others. They're
Yeah.
looking for the opportunity, or some people who have the desire to be mentored.
Yes.
So that's really important as we look at relationships. And now I'm going to pass the mic on, figuratively speaking, to Dr. Dennis.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
one thought. I know you know the whole book is your thoughts on paper, and so I want to know, it's like maybe
Yeah.
one thing you want to share, kind of 50,000 foot view, big picture.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. People where people. In fact, I've thought jokingly, when if the Lord graces me with the time and the ability, the opportunity to write a biography of my life, maybe at 70, whatever. I think I'm 70 years old. I'll write one. I even thought of calling it "The Links That Made Me." You know,
Oh,
because it feels like we are the relationships, because you are your mother, your father, your friends, and your enemies too, which is the book tries to go there. I try to labor
Right.
there as well, that yeah, there some things you never learn from friends. As an enemy sometimes will profit you more than even a friend,
Right.
because of he taught me how to just be on my feet, how to watch my words, things like that I've had to learn from just those people that don't like me, and of course, my goodness, the proteges. I wouldn't be here without my dads, my uncles, the men and women that God has sent me to speak into my life, and so absolutely the 360-degree type view of the people that make us, and so it's just been, and to just, for me, I'm blessed now to hear just both of you and the people in the commentary, the people that have reached out privately, that I think I successfully penned some things that
Mm.
could help someone, and even if they get, like Lisa, to realize, oh man, I wish, to just realize I
Mm.
could have, but we're not dead yet. We're not done yet. So could we have another more fruitful
Yeah.
next chapter of our lives? It's where we can pour, glean and pour, glean and pour, and love those, and love those around us. So yep, awesome.
Yeah, I think what's really cool about this book and our discussion today is we can see relationships as not just something that happens to us, but
Mhm.
something we can be intentional about. Like, there are strategies, there are ways to go about it in the best way. Because sometimes people are like, oh, I don't make friends. Friends just
Yeah.
happen to find me. It's like, no, we get to choose that.
Yes,
We get to
yes,
choose relationships that we're going to
yes,
have. And
yes.
so we are in for such a treat. We've got four amazing, well, it's actually six. We've got two couples, we've got two individuals that are
Yeah.
going to share with us. But before we get to that part, I want to take the time to greet everybody who's commented on Facebook. Maybe just pick a few
Wow.
that have said hi.
Wow.
Tiffany Taylor from Oxford, Mississippi,
yay!
Isn't
says
Tiffany in
it?
the
hi.
house.
We've got Star and
Yay,
Juan,
Star.
who
Yay.
Juanito
Yes.
is with us. We've got Elizabeth as well,
Elizabeth.
joining in from Santa Barbara, right?
Yes.
If I
Look
got
at
that right. We've got Jason,
Jason
uh,
from
yeah,
Kenya.
from
Jason,
Kitale,
my son.
Kenya.
Woo
This is
woo.
in Kenya.
Yes,
Yeah.
which I got to see his video updating on the humanitarian
Right.
in
Right.
Kenya. And so thank you for what you do, Jason.
Yes.
We are so grateful. We've got Mercy as well, Mercy
Hi,
Gordon.
Mercy.
We've got David Zelaya. We've got
David.
June as well.
David,
Yeah, so
June.
June.
we've got
Woo woo.
all these greetings.
David's from Maryland.
Yes, I don't know if I see that comment, but
Right here,
hello.
right underneath of June, Dora, and then
Oh,
David again.
Carol's here from
Yeah.
London. London in the house. Woo,
Caroline
woo,
from London,
woo.
Michelle as well.
Michelle from
Um,
San
Michelle.
Angelo.
and she said some pretty touching, heartwarming stuff. Honestly, I can say the person I am today is because of my father, yes, but also as well as my mentors, Dr. Dennis and Lisa, giving me small tidbits. I think that's absolutely
Love
wonderful.
you,
Wow.
Michelle.
Yeah,
Wow. Thank
awesome.
you.
Are
Thank
we
you so
ready
much.
to get started?
Yes,
Yes,
real.
yes.
And because I don't want to make it too monologue, I don't want, because there will be a masterclass actually on relationships that
Yes.
we're gonna announce here throughout the our launch here. So if you want to deep dive and really have a transformational 2 days in Houston with us, and all of us going to be all over. But first of all, it was awesome to I did something really scary with this book. I've written, by God's grace, 18 books. This is number 18. But this one I went to, and usually when you're writing, it's good to not just have thoughts. Hey, here's thoughts. To just actually have people that you respect say, hey, these thoughts are weighty because, and usually those are people of means, or people of some sort of status or authority in a subject. And this time I went to my closest friends and closest people that have known me, not all of them, because in case you're here and you're like, hey, what about me? Because and in fact, the most endorsements, and I even struggled wanting to call it, oh, good, they didn't call it endorsements. I called it what others say. And it was good to start with my own daughter, because I usually say, hey, you can pretend to be an expert, especially in a subject like this, or to know what to say, to claim to know what to do with regards to relationships, but what do the people around you really think or say, and my daughter was the first. So there's Abigail, and my son and my youngest son, 15-year-old Elijah, as well, part of the voices, and of course my oldest friend Paul is here, and I said something on this book. My spiritual mama Mary Alice, Dr. Ruth Peterson, my spiritual mama. So these are friends, peers. My Limit X boys, Isaac, Paul, and Isaac and Paul, and the other Paul also, Sarah Kenya, pastors and friends I've known for forever. Lisa, of course, people that work with me, Lisa, James Ayton, Pastor James, Pastor Paul, people that I've met, Peter Odera, people that I've met a long time ago. And it was just good to hear what they had to say concerning just not the content necessarily alone, but the fact that, do they know me? And do I mean these things? Are these theoretic? Did I just gather thoughts and put them to print? And it was good to just get their feedback, and it gave me the confidence to go ahead and really publish this book in this way. So the book is divided into 4 sections, and we'll just deep dive into maybe 2 minutes, because I don't want to give everything away. And after a section, we're going to bring somebody on, and we've got, like Josh said, 4 friends and sets of friends who will come, and I mean couples, or who will come after each section to just opine and also just feedback. And here, and this first section is, I call it horizontals. Horizontals, I believe relationships are, we've got vertical relationships and horizontal relationships. Horizontal relationships are the people that God sends, with whom we walk, people that are as a horizontal scale has both positive and negative. Positive horizontal relationships are friends. Negative horizontal relationships are, I call them foes or enemies, but I wanted to use the word foes, so and there's qualifications for that, because not everybody who comes around you can be your friend. Who is a friend? Friends celebrate you. Friends cover your weakness. Friends are committed to you, So you read all about that. Then we go into the qualifications of friends, because I was asked that every time I said, make sure the person's your friend. Actually, it started with me. All this stuff that I'm teaching, really, or writing, my story. I was like, as a thinking kid, I was thinking, just because we like the same food, just because who are my friends? Are they people that oh, good prayer partners, right? People who pray with me. No. What about people who we share the same hobbies? Why not? Oh, nah. People with whom we share enmity. Oh yeah, there's people that click with people just because you hate the same thing. No. So I created crystallized 7 qualifications of friendships. Friends, who's a friend? Do they have character? Do they dream with me? Do they laugh with me? Which means, are they excited when I'm excited? Do they cry with me? Do they get down and if something really bad happens to me, my friend should be able to just come and sit in the puddle with me. Where are they going? Because hook up with somebody who's going nowhere, and you won't go anywhere either. So there's qualifications for friends, and we deep dive into those. And then there's also foes. Who are foes? People that come into your life that are not really supposed to be with you. That's difficult, especially in the body of Christ. If you're a Christian here, we have this idea that because they love Jesus, so we all get along. We're going to get along just because they love Jesus. We all love Jesus, yay! And realize that, yeah, they may love Jesus, but they don't. They're not supposed to walk with you. You're not compatible, and some of them really start to sabotage, and that's been also tough for me when somebody claims to love God, but they're a saboteur. They're an enemy. They're bad for me. Every time I get around them, I'm binding demons. I'm just, I'm like, I think I should stop hanging out with this person. That was so hard for me. Why? But they love Jesus. Well, no, they're actually foes, and you need to recognize them. And so that's the first section. It deals with the friends, foes, and I say almost humorously, but not, that sometimes an enemy will profit you more than a friend. What? Yeah. My enemies have sometimes helped me pray harder, helped me love deeper, helped me be more authentic, helped me crystallize my convictions, So, yeah, that's the first section, and I'm going to leave it at that. What do you guys think?
I think it's worthwhile to point out how you said it. Sometimes a foe will profit you more than a friend.
Yeah.
That
Yes.
negative experiences can still be something positive in effect. It might be negative at the onset, but
Right.
you learn a lot. Like, say for example, your experience with the mango, it made you more discerning about the future mangoes you have. So in the same way, we experience some pains in our relationship, but it also helps us become wiser as we step
Yes,
into
yes.
to new ones. I personally had an experience. I had a very toxic ex-girlfriend of 2 years where we broke up like 20 plus times. Just think about that. There are 24 months in 2 years. We broke up 20 plus times.
Now,
That's a
Josh, you're very exact. Josh, do you really mean literally 20?
It was close to that. It felt like pretty much every month that was happening.
Yeah.
And I stayed because I felt like nobody's gonna love me in that way.
Right.
But when that ended, that was a very negative experience. It helped me see how I should value myself in future relationships rather than let people just step all over me. And so, though that was a painful one, I think it helped shape the man that I am
Come
now.
on.
Yeah.
Yes.
I see relationships in a different way.
Yeah.
So it's a concrete way of a foe, so to speak,
Yes.
Yeah.
added to my life more than a friend would have.
Yeah. And can you imagine, Josh, if you would have listened to that foe, if you want to say, because, that person was trying to tell you this is all you're worthy of. This is the type of love, or this is the type of, and if you would have listened just to be stuck, in that area. But I do want to point out one thing that Dr. Dennis mentions too in this section and in the book is that he's encouraging us to go through the relationships. And I know we're not going to dive too deep into that, but as he says, to a little caution there too, don't it takes time, right? Like 20 times. It took you back and forth, you know.
Yeah.
Some of us, it takes a little longer than others, but that's okay.
That's
But
right.
it takes time to find these really lasting,
Exactly.
Yes.
true relationships, and just don't go and throw everybody away, you
That's
know.
right.
But to build, because as it took time to build the foes, it's going to take time to build the good as
Right.
well on the other
Yes.
side. So to just
Yeah.
caution a little bit about that, and yeah, but we
Wonderful.
need to be wise in it.
Yeah. Well, I'm so excited to hear from
Yes.
our guests.
Billy, yeah. Let's
I'm going to put Billy on our virtual stage. Hello, Billy.
Woohoo!
Billy.
Yeah,
Hi,
I think
Billy.
a good place to
Thank you
start
so much.
is, of course. Yeah, a good place to start is maybe to speak on how you know Dr. Dennis, how you guys met, and then we'll go into your insights on the specific section of the book.
I met Dr. Dennis and Lady Lisa almost 3 years ago, just over
Wow.
over 2.5 years. It's crazy that it's been that long and that short all at the same time. Um, they came to the church that I was attending for Valentine's banquet. They were our guest speakers, and my heart connected. And as we have gone through the months, we've just connected, and this is a lifelong relationship.
Amen.
This is I would like to think both vertical and horizontal.
Horizontal.
I love these people so much.
Yeah,
Thank
amazing.
You, Billy.
We love you too, Billy. You're
Your
from a very,
love.
very cold. You're one of the coldest parts of the world.
Joining us from Alaska.
Alaska.
Yes, it snowed yesterday for the first
No.
No.
It's
Well.
dark and snowy here.
Okay, Billy. Okay. Talk about this relationships. Have you bumped into this idea? Because you're a loving Jesus girl who has had bruising from this, presumption that everybody who's around you, who loves God, who worships like you, could be a friend. Have you found that not everyone is? What's been your experience with this phenomenon here?
It's a huge struggle to realize that just because someone claims that they love Jesus, that they know Jesus, that they have the same value system that I have, that they have the same character.
Yeah.
It was a shock to me over the years to discover that that's not necessarily true. I assumed that everybody that I went to church with, we were just going to be friends and we were going to be family and do life together.
Right.
And discover that people have their own ambitions.
Yeah.
They have their own way of thinking.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily lines up with my goals, my dreams.
Right.
And then there's hurt because I put an expectation on people to think the way that I do, and when they don't, it can be devastating.
Yeah.
Because I think we're walking together and we're doing separate paths.
Yeah. And then the shock when you actually realize this person is actually sabotaging. This person is and this is a foe. They're in the body of Christ. We're all the same church, same ministry, same ministry group, same small group, and somebody's like out to get you. The shock of it, right?
Right. Instead of you mentioned in your book those people that are the wind beneath our wings, that they help bring us up, and there are people that are trying to drag us down, and it is a shock that people that say they love you, they love Jesus, they're part of you,
Yeah.
but want to pull you down,
Right.
make them look good.
Yeah.
I got a
Unfortunately, that's too much and we see that too much in the church. Sorry, Josh, to interrupt. Yeah.
no, it's totally cool. I have a specific question for you. In the book, Dr. Dennis outlines 7 qualifications for friendship: character, shared values, same priorities, support for your dreams, genuine happiness in your successes, emotional support, and life direction. Which of those 7 was a shock for you to learn that it's like, oh, I should have considered that when I look at my friendships?
Question.
Probably the direction
Okay.
that we need to be in the same direction.
Right.
That was, I was like, oh yeah,
That's kind of one of those aha moments, huh?
right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. I just assume that we are headed in that if you're my friend,
Right. Yeah.
in church, we're in the small groups together, we're doing life, that of course we're headed in the same direction. But that's not necessarily true.
That's not true. That's good. That's a big one. All right.
That was really big for me.
Yeah. All right. Conclusive thoughts. What's one thought your takeaway, your big takeaway from this? Yeah.
I think my big takeaway from this book was, we are not children.
Okay.
That children, they meet someone and automatically they're their best friends.
Good point.
We're, as an adult,
Yeah.
as that is matured,
Yeah.
we can be friendly,
Yeah.
but we don't have to take everyone in to be our best friends.
Good.
That's good, Billy.
So good. So good.
Yeah.
It's kind of given permission, huh?
Yeah.
To like, oh, it's okay. You don't have to,
It's okay to slow down. It's okay to slow
Yes.
down. Take time
Yes.
and get to know someone before you let them into your inner circle.
Yeah. And we'll talk about the circle later on. Billy, stay around. We'll get you right back.
Thank you, Billy.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Wow. What do you think, guys?
So good.
That was so good. I heard this quote a few days ago that I thought would be very relevant.
Yeah.
It's easier for someone to tell you don't do it than to have you think critically. In the same way, it's easy for people to just say, don't deal with foes, or like don't be intentional with your friends, rather than to say, hey, think critically. Like, if there's a war, maybe get the sweet of the mango. And I just think that a lot of the problems that come out of our relationships come from like laziness, right? I'm too lazy to discern the good parts from the bad.
Right.
So I'll just be like this thing with a little bit of a bad part, all bad.
Yeah.
Rather than hey, take it easy, think critically. There's some good stuff here. Maybe we can salvage that.
Because it's easy to just throw away, right?
Exactly.
I wanted to point out one thing in this section before we move on, guys, too. It's one of the scriptures that you had listed here is, as iron sharpens iron, so a friend sharpens a friend. And for me, I loved this part and how you reminded us to, I'm just going to read what you wrote here, Dr. Dennis. Your friends should be able to look you in the eye and rub against you to sharpen you.
Yeah.
They are folks who must have the boldness to correct you when you get off track and who spur you on when you feel weak. They are cheerleaders. And if you have someone like that, I have someone like that in my life that helps me. That's like, hey, knock it off.
Stop it.
Or stop it. Yeah. Or, great job. Bravo. And I didn't realize the importance of that either until later on in life. Because again, Josh, it's easy to just throw, hey, you're not for me. Okay, then you're against me. No, that's not the case.
It's a two-way relationship too. Like
I'm sorry, Josh.
it's a two-way relationship. When you
Yes.
sharpen a knife,
Yes.
at some point one knife is grating against the other and sharpening one, but you go the other way and use the other knife to sharpen the other.
Mhm.
And so it's not just like, oh, you cheer me on
Right.
and you give me feedback, but it goes both ways.
Right.
It's a relationship that
Right.
goes back and forth.
Right. Yes. Yes, that's great. Okay, guys.
Wow.
How about
Thank
we
you,
move
Billy.
on?
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Billy. Okay, here we go. Next, now the vertical relationships, which I also was like, oh, there's those two. They're not necessarily my friend. It's not about do we think the same? No, these are people that here. You might call them, and I read them this one. You might call them I don't know. Oh yeah, they're two. They're two. Vertical people that God sends into your life to pour into your life, or people that God sends into your life for you to pour into them. Different protocols, different qualifications, and of course, so again, like horizontal scale has negative, which is adding, and positive foes. The vertical scale has positive, those people that you pour in, people that you glean from, and negative not so much into they're bad, but people that you're supposed to give to, receive from, give to. The ones that you receive from, I call them proteges. Here, and it is oh gosh, where is that? Where's that? Oh yeah, it's gone. It's gone. I had a page. It's a page right here. Yeah. Okay. Well, here. It's right here. Okay, you might call them apprentices, trainees, disciples, sons, daughters, students, mentees. I prefer to call them proteges. These are folks who sit by a trainer, or you, or a coach, to learn and to glean from them. And they are qualifications. I used to be flattered. I remember when people would come and say, "Hey, Dr. Dennis," or Dennis Addison. When I started this, it should be, "Hey, Dennis, can you teach me some things?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, sure." I used to think, wow, that's cool. Everybody who came, I thought they were ready to glean, to learn. But to my shock, I realized, well, there's some qualifications for that too. Not everybody who says, teach me, is ready to actually learn. And they have to be an open book, because I've also tried to help people who are like, yeah, I know. I don't know. No. If somebody is going to sit to receive from you, they have to be like willing to learn from you. They are likable, which means you're going to kind of like want to hang out with them. And I explain that really succinctly in the book. They must be pliable, which is, I've tried to help people who say, yeah, I hear you. No. If somebody's going to ask me, hey, what would you do if you were me? They have to be willing to change their direction based on my counsel, or we're just friends. They have to be respectful. They have to be diligent, which is do the thing I told you to do last week, because some people like, okay, hey, please tell me. They like to glean, but they're not changing. They enjoy they enjoy I want to ask you, I want to call her, Lisa help. I'm honored that Lisa sometimes helps manage these people for me, people who want to learn and glean, and so sometimes they say so and so wants to talk to you. They want another session, and she's shocked when I say no, not anymore. We're done. She's like, what? Why are we done? You're done? Yeah, because the last 3 times we keep saying the same things. They like to hear, but they're not doing anything. So really, it's going to be very short. I'll text them to tell them, did you do the last thing we talked about? So those are proteges, and there are, and also here, they're also like people you really cannot help. That was shocking to me. The people they've got, I call them impregnable attitudes. Somebody who doesn't think they have a problem, you can't help them. Somebody who thinks you're their problem, you can't help them. You can't help the person who thinks yours is just another opinion. Yeah, I understand. I hear you. I hear you. You really can't help them. You can't help the person who insists on keeping the wrong company. You can't help the person who doesn't share your values. You tell them, you need to pay your taxes. Well, but I don't believe in taxes. I don't believe the government should have a penny of my. Well, then if you don't have the same values, you can't help them. And also, finally, you can't help the person who let's see, who doesn't, who is not hungry for it. They're not hungry for it. See, you can't help them. So those are proteges. Then there are trainers, those people that God sends into your life to help you. You need to make pivotal decisions. You have turning points. You're facing tragedy. You are facing failure. You can't help the person. You need someone to tell you this blow is not the final blow. Somebody who tells you, I've been through it too. Those are trainers, pastors, fathers, mothers, big auntie. So there are also qualifications for that, because I also found out just because I admired someone didn't mean that they could help me. Could help me. Are they honest? Are they models? Do I admire them enough to glean from them? Are they committed to me? Are they teachers? Are they transparent? Do they celebrate me? Because there's that too. They have to be excited that I'm winning, Are they learners as well? Are they learners? So, and I also go into the types of trainers as well. So this section is about relationships that come, that pour into you, and to discern, okay, is this person able to, do they have, because here the philosophy is, it is foolish, like Josh's dad says, and I love Vic, it's foolish to have somebody with a wealth of experience in front of you, and you say, what, especially this generation, which is, I'm sorry, Gen Z people, folks, kids will actually tell you, you can tell them, you see this scar? Don't do that. It hurts. Don't do that. They'll say, yeah, I just want my own story. I just want to have my own story, bro. Thank you. But can I have my own? It's like, can I have my own scar? How foolish, though. And I say, you may be able to recover from the scarring, but the time, though, in fact, I say that life is not designed in such a way that you have all the time to live it, make mistakes, learn from those mistakes, and then have enough time left over for you to implement the lessons from these mistakes and have time to live your full potential. Because by the time you learn from the mistakes, you're 75 and you need 40 years to do this thing. So you end up with pain, and there's nothing like the pain of, I should have listened. I shouldn't have done that. Yes, you can be saved from that by finding a voice, a mentor, a trainer to say, show me your scars. Can I take you to dinner once a month? Don't do it every day. Can I take you to tea? Can we have a coffee? So I bring my notepad and ask questions, and you pour into me. So without giving too much away, that's the section.
Yeah.
That was a big thing for me too, to realize, I think, because I'm turning 60 next year, and I'm like, wait, I don't have the time to keep making mistakes. Oh my gosh.
That's
Again,
right.
where were you 25, 30 years ago, sir? Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Before we have, I think Natalie is coming up next.
Yes.
Before we have her on, I did just want to ask a bit of context. Growing up, my dad would, I've learned a lot from my dad. He's a very wise man. And he would say that there are three kinds of learners in life. You've got somebody who's wise, foolish, and stupid. So somebody who's wise is somebody that can learn from someone else's mistakes.
Yeah.
mentorship, or even
Right.
just observant of what
Right.
other people do.
Right.
Somebody who's foolish is someone who learns from their own mistakes. Somebody has to go through it so that they can pick up the lesson. And then there are people who are stupid. Those are people who neither learn from others' mistakes nor from their own.
No growth from theirs.
Right.
Big.
And as we have proteges in life, maybe people who glean from us, there we will deal with our fair share of stupid people who, no matter how many times you've given the advice, no matter how many times you've proven to them, it's
That's
like,
right.
hey, you remember when I told you this and you did the other thing, and
The other thing.
your life ended up in a very messy situation.
Yeah.
And they still don't learn. They do it again. My question is, like, how do you deal with people like that? Is it like, hey, patience and grace, or is there a point where you set boundaries
Yeah.
in how you have proteges and how you kind of download to these people?
Yeah. Yeah. Jesus makes a shocking statement when he says that do not put pearls to swine.
Mm,
And then the other, I think the other analogy he says, oh, treasure before dogs.
right.
And dogs in the word used there is literally stray dogs. Stray dogs, they would come and just eat from, and stray dogs eat from anything. He says, no, you don't do that. Which means there are times when I want to learn from you. I want to just glean from you. And I'm like, and sometimes Lisa is, sometimes she's around, she says, but they want to learn. I'm like, they think they do. They're that number 2 or 3, right? Some people just like to think I've got somebody to speak into my life.
Right.
I'm very patient, of course, because I know there's injuries too that affect the hearing. Some things, sometimes you're communicating and the person really isn't hearing what you're communicating, and it's going to take layers of but there's, Josh, to answer your question bluntly and brutally, there will be a time, and it's coming to you, son. There will be a time where you're going to have to say, I love you, but you're not going to learn from me. But sometimes the sad thing is the person doesn't even know that you've stopped pouring because they
were never really listening.
They were not listening. Yeah, they were not listening. So you stop putting treasure or pearls. You keep your pearls because they are pearls.
Right.
I know for a fact that I do have pearls by God's grace. Some things that I've learned that will help a marriage work, that will help a father-son, a business succeed, or whatever. I know that now. So when we sit with someone, I'm thinking, okay, I can
help you.
Yeah, I can help you. And sometimes it's not even just me, because I've not been 80 yet, but I've sat with enough 80-year-olds and I've taken a bunch of notes to say, you need to stop jogging like that. Can you start walking now? Because if you keep going like that, I know you love running, your knees will be, you will need knee, because I've got friends, knee surgery. What's your story? I was a jogger for 40 years. I'm like, notes, I'm taking notes. At a certain point, Dennis, I know you like running, but as you approach 60, why don't we try fast walking? Whoa. But I have a runner's high, this runner's high. But I love when I don't run. I haven't done. I'm thinking, I've looked there through the lenses of my friends who are 78 and they can barely walk. Why do you want a different story? Because it's arrogant to say, okay, everybody's bumping their heads on that, but I won't. I'm going to go through. I'm going to be good. For me, it's a level of arrogance to see people falling in that ditch, and you think because you pray harder, you're so spirit-filled. What is it? Why do you think you'll have a different experience? You don't love your wife. You don't care for your marriage. You won't have one. Period. No, but you know what? No. So this is the value of proteges and the value of mentors, trainers, inestimable. Plans, Proverbs goes as far as saying, plans fail for lack of advice.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I'll say one more thing before we have Natalie on. I think as we talk about those proteges or mentors, people downloading into us, it's one thing to hear from them. It's another thing to put it into practice.
Yes.
Right. The scriptures say it's like, somebody who hears these words, don't put it into practice, are like people who built their house on
Yes.
sand versus on a rock. They
Yes.
both have something to show for it. They both have
Yes.
built houses. And I feel like
Yes.
sometimes people go to mentors so that they can say, hey, I talked to Dr. Dennis, but they don't put into practice what you said.
Yes.
So you have a house to show for it, but when
Yes.
tested, it all falls apart.
Yeah,
And so sometimes people use like talking to mentors as like validation. If I talk to him anyway, but you're gonna do the complete opposite advice.
yes.
And
Oh,
when
yeah.
the storms come, it just doesn't stand. So I'm so excited to welcome Natalie to share her experiences, specifically on vertical relationships. And so Dr. Dennis, I don't know if you have any questions for her, but before that,
Yeah.
Natalie, could you share with us how you met Dr. Dennis and maybe your initial takeaways from this section of the book, Verticals?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited being
Natalie,
here.
you're in Switzerland.
I am in Switzerland, yes. And I met Dr. Dennis through, I was in open house in a movement here in Switzerland, and our leader Matthias invited Dr. Dennis and Lisa to Switzerland, and that's how I met them. And I remember Matthias was also, from this topic, he was also a trainer to me. And I remember he said like, hey, it's important to be there. It's coming really important people. And I did not really listen. I did not in the beginning, I did not listen. And then I missed the first evening. And after I realized that I missed it, I went crying to Matthias and said, I'm so sorry. I did not listen to you, and I'm sorry about that. That was a big learning point, because then I realized sometimes you don't see it, but you trainer can see it.
Right.
And,
Yes.
and just trust him and believe him. So that's the point. And that's how I met Dr. Dennis and Lisa.
Amazing.
Yes.
Let's move on to your biggest takeaways as we talked about vertical relationships, proteges, mentors. What did you learn from the book?
It is. I cannot change others, but change my attitude. It's just similar that you already said about the mango. I also like just to throw the whole thing away, but or try to change them and helping them, but it's really on me. Like with people I cannot change, or people I cannot put away, like my boss or so, just to change my attitude, and because I have to work with him.
Yeah. Yes. And now the Swiss, which is interesting. Yeah. You guys culturally, you have this collective psychology that you don't really, you're flat. It's called flat. You guys have this flat perspective about relationships. In fact, they were telling me that, yeah, we call you Dr. Dennis, but even here, that's strange for us. I said, no, we don't. Even my doctor, my clinical doctor, I just call him, his first name, because we're all the same. He knows he's a doctor. He's a doctor. Of course, he can treat me, but he's like me. So they have a very flat culture so the idea of looking up to someone has been really transformational for you in terms of change. And you've helped so many of the Swiss, because we call them Swiss kids. We've got a whole generation of just amazing young men and women who have had to actually learn that, wait, God sends people into your life to actually train you and help you. And how has it been for you breaking that culture mindset? And then you now, because you're a leader, having people come and you're pouring into them, but they're Swiss. They just see you as, this is just Natalie. How has that been for you? Yeah, how has it been for you, Natalie?
Yeah, it's really not culture. Like, even say I have a spiritual father, that's something we don't have that here.
Like,
and
why?
sometimes people the people think like maybe you are strange or whatever. And but for me, I just start to talk about it, because I would not be here I am when I don't have a spiritual father like I have you in my life. Because it's really like Josh said about his father, it's stupid not to learn from somebody who already went through so many things. I would face so many times because of people, and hurting people, that people hurt me and stuff like that, or just going through life and struggles and not having somebody you can go and say, hey, what are you thinking about that? Or I am a feeler, and I feel sometimes stuff, but then I don't believe my feelings. And so it helps so much just to have somebody I can go and say, hey, what are you thinking about that? I feel something, but I don't know. And I would not stay in here without that. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I want to ask, like, what was the turning point like? So you grew up in sort of this culture of very flat, mostly horizontal relationships, and at some point, I figure you had a revelation of, hey, I need these vertical relationships. What was that turning point like, or maybe what did you learn or encounter that made you change the way you look at relationships?
yeah, it was really maybe I was always hungry about having leaders, but because we don't live like that, I don't have people who give that to me. And then because I am I feel I realized really quick that I see Dr. Dennis has many experience, and I don't know, I just started to ask questions, and I did even not speak English well. It was a big struggle, but I was so hungry to learn, and I just started to ask questions, and then I realized it's 10 years ago I met Dr. Dennis and Lisa, and it showed me that I really can trust. And they are really for me, and they don't say just, or Dr. Dennis don't say just stuff I want to hear, but I have to hear, and that sometimes was like pushbacks or like, what? I have to sleep over this message because I don't know. But then in the next morning, I just want to grow. It's inside of me. I think it's in the people inside. Yeah, just want to
That's
grow.
kind of like what you talked about, Dr. Dennis, isn't it? That the protege, they have to be ready, they have to be willing, they have to be open. And Natalie, you have modeled that for a long time. You definitely, the questions, definitely pushing back and noticing, hey, this is different. What I see is different from how I've lived or grown up. And with God putting those and tugging at your heart, like you said, Natalie, you were hungry, you were willing, and you wanted more. You knew there was more, and you saw the difference in the way Dr. Dennis would preach or teach, or how we would do life, and handling different situations and stuff like that. And so you saw, you knew, and you grabbed at it, and you sat, and you, even when it was hard, you sat. You're like, okay, I'm gonna sleep on this right now. Goodbye. Kind of like the example you gave with Matthias, not listening at first, and then the next day, like, oh, what did I do? So very, such a great student, Natalie, that you are. Yeah, such a great student. But
And it
yet
takes so
trainer
much
also.
humility. Yeah. It takes so much humility to admit that. It's like, oh, I'm hungry. There's something someone has to offer that I don't have right now.
Yeah.
And to say, can I learn from you? Or even not have that ask, but to intentionally put yourselves in situations where they can pour into you takes a lot of humility. So that in itself is a very admirable thing that proteges need to have. To kind of go like, oh, I don't know a lot, and so I want to learn.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Awesome. What do you advise somebody, Natalie, who may be struggling with? But you know what? God's going to show me too, because there's that arrogance that we have, that you see someone who's gone ahead of you, and they know more, or they've experienced more, I wonder what causes it's a form of arrogance too. But how do you overcome that? You know, I'm good too. I'm good. You know, yeah, I know he could. I know he could help me, or she could help me. But I don't want to. I don't want to. You know, how do you? What would you advise somebody who's listening? I feel this is going to help somebody right now.
What comes in my mind is like brutal self-control, like looking in your eyes in the mirror and figure it out. You cannot do it alone. You
Yeah.
tried that like the last 5 years,
Right. Right.
just to really realize, yeah, but I am stuck. Maybe it's not true I can help myself because
Right.
I'm stuck. So maybe that helps to overcome, like to say, yeah, but when I want really going forward, maybe I have to try something else. I have to open my heart. I have
Right.
to go and ask. And I can just try. I can go and ask and build a relationship with this person, right?
Right.
And see if it's really working. It's and then
Yeah.
going from there.
Yeah. 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 That's awesome. The reason I wrote these qualifications is as you are contemplating, sitting under somebody, there's things you can have your little short list. Are they really into me? Have they done what I think they've done? Because there's that too. I've read people's biographies and think, oh, it's going to be good for me. So, but when you go out with them or you sit with them, they are full of themselves and they're just wow. The TV personality is different than this guy, and then you stop. There's ways to actually safeguard against the fear of being controlled, all those things that we fear, and which is what you've done so well. So awesome.
Beautiful.
Awesome. So
Thank you
hang
for
out
sharing.
with us. We'll come back and you'll give us some closing thoughts as well. If as depending on how well we go through the next two sections. But thank you, Natalie.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Natalie.
That's
All right.
awesome.
That's
That was
awesome.
beautiful.
Yeah.
We are halfway through the book already.
Yay.
Yeah,
Got through
thank you.
our first two sections. I think it's a good time to pause and maybe plug the relationship masterclass. Lisa, could you give us a few details on what that is? We'll talk about it more in the end as well, but
Yeah.
so that people can build up their excitement and anticipation for what is to come.
Yeah. January 24th and 25th are the dates that we are settling on. Let everybody get through Christmas and the holidays, and it's going to be a great way to start the new year, I believe. I know that it's kind of towards the end of January, but letting everything settle, because it's everything that we're talking about here, but we're trying not to give too much. But Dr. Dennis is going to do a deep dive into the relationships. Even in the book, I believe it is, as we've all gone through, and we're kind of trying not to say too much. Even in the book, though, there's so much more, because I think this book would have been, like 500 pages if Dr. Dennis was able to actually write about everything and about relationships. And this is something that he specializes in, is relationships. It's something that it's doing that deep dive into the, like the protege, the trainer, the mango, and all of that. And just really being able to walk into 2025 having a different perspective, a different outlook, I think is really, really, really going to be helpful, because, like I was going to read this one little thing as we closed out the first half of the book, it's just, again, for me, it's all these little gold nuggets, that's coming up, and it's about talking about the protege and stuff, and the blind spots.
Yeah, read.
Oftentimes, plateaus are caused by behavioral blind spots. These are issues completely inconspicuous to us. They hold us back from journeying toward our destiny. How sad is that? And until we find someone who has been where we desire to be, we might never learn how to push through certain growth barriers. Blind spots are totally inconspicuous to the one who has them. It's like showing up to a party with a piece of green spinach stuck in your front tooth. Dr. Dennis writes about that. Looking in until you can look in the mirror. Natalie said that. Or someone tells you, you just don't know it's there. Again, another another simple little golden nugget, but this really stood out to me. The blind, it's blind, right? We can only
Yeah.
see our
Right.
peripheral. There's
Right.
only so much. And
Yeah.
if there's
Right.
not somebody there that says, hey, tapping you on the shoulder, right? So like you might want to look at this a little bit closer, or you've got
Right.
that spinach right there in your teeth. Go clean, go do the work. Go.
Yeah.
So this is what the masterclass is going to be about. It's about bringing more of those gold nuggets out. And
Yeah.
Dr. Dennis, is there anything
Yeah.
else you want to share about that?
Yeah.
Not
I
too much.
believe.
Don't share too much.
No, I'll say this. It is, and I'll say this unequivocally, one of the greatest investments you can ever make in your life is to get around these truths. They will change you.
Yes.
80%, you'll hear this a lot. 80% of why people succeed in any area. I'm talking the military, I'm talking ministry, I'm talking athletics, I'm talking the movies, is not the mastery of the expertise in those areas, but 80% the way you do people.
Yeah.
The way you do relationships. Look at it, and even the highest paid people in even these fields, even the military, the highest paid person is the chief of staff, the person that manages people. People important. You could do, somebody said, even the ministry, our ministry would be great if were it not be for, if not for all these people. Sorry, there's no ministry without people. There's no, you can only do vertical too long, and then God's gonna say, go, love.
Yeah.
The way you do relationships, and so
Join us.
this is going to be therapeutic healing. It's going to be brutal, but
Yes.
you're going to leave completely transformed. I
Yes.
guarantee you, if you commit yourself to these 2 days, it will change your life. It will change your life completely change your life. So
Amazing.
24-25.
It's gonna be a truly amazing time. I forgot where I heard it or who said it, but they say life moves at the speed of relationships. And so it's really key for us to manage relationships well. Like if we know it's such a crucial part, then we should know how to deal with things in the best way. I want to read one quote. This is a last pitch for our masterclass. Also from the book, where Dr. Dennis says, experience is not the best teacher. It is most certainly not God's preferred method of instruction. I would think that if God would want us to just learn from experience, he probably wouldn't have given us the Bible. But instead, he allows us to read and learn from the experiences of people who have been on this earth more than 2,000 years before. And so if God does that, he obviously makes way for us to pass on these wisdom to people. And that's what the masterclass is. This is people who have gone through, Dr. Dennis, like you specifically, someone who's gone through life a lot of seasons ahead, some of us. And we get to learn from this rather than having to learn from experience. I don't know where people got the thought of experience is the best teacher, because frankly, I'd rather learn from someone else and not have to experience.
Exactly. That's good, Josh.
Yeah.
Especially your generation. Yeah, you're not Gen Z, but the younger people are like saying, I don't want that.
You guys are smarter. We learned by experience. We're like, no, I'll do it myself.
Yeah, I'm on the border. I'm like the year where it goes from millennial to Gen Z. That's
right.
I see both sides.
So why we love you at the table, right? Just be at the table. We need Josh. What does Josh think?
It's an honor to be here. So let's move on to the third section of the book. Dr. Dennis, talk to us about worms.
These worms. Okay, worms are the whole idea is yes, you've met them. You've met difficult people. This is really about difficult people. And I was reading from just an injury, and we were coming out of this relationship, and man, it's just as a family, this people we had been hurt, and I was we're actually on vacation somewhere, and I was like, man, and so I turned to one of my sons, Caleb. He was just little. He was real little, and I said, Caleb, man, this is. And he wasn't really listening, but I said, Caleb people are difficult. People are just, and I said, they're like animals, some people are like animals. And I said, Caleb, can you think about animals that describe different people for me? And he said, sure. And he just like he rattled off his like, yep, there's the baboon. Daddy, the baboon is just like then there's the snake. The snake will just come around you, and then it will just whoa, and it will just strangle you. And I'm like, oh, and I began to take notes, and that's the inspiration for this section. There are, I think we identify 7 of them, and we group them into 2. And this is it's gonna feel brutal, and especially some of us who are more simplistic in our thinking are gonna think, well, they're all God's people. God loves them all. Yes, they are, but they're wounded people that come around us that will just absolutely. All this is experience, and you're gonna see tons of stories. One of my writing style is story. So there's a gazillion stories in the book. So the first one is the hyena predator who just comes around you and just wants to just so we describe the hyena, and then we create a parallel with relationship where you see people around you who act exactly like that. Then we talk about the python. Python comes and slithers around you, gets to know you, gets to learn about you, and then begins to squeeze, and woo, they squeeze, and this we call them the strangler. Then there is the badger. The badger is the bully. You've seen those. They just love to just they for them, you apologize, you think you're apologizing. Oh no, when you apologize, they think I'm going to attack it. They think it's a vulnerability. They just so how do you deal? And we really are practical in setting out what they are and how to deal with them. These aggressives and passives. So those 3, the predator, the strangler, and the bully are the aggressives, aggressive, toxic personality types. And then there's what we call the passive toxic personality types, which are the manipulator, which is the cat, and we describe the cat. I know there's cat lovers here, and so we describe the cat. They come around you, and it's not about you. It's not about them. It's all about them. Oh, you. Oh, here. There, yeah. Let me see the cat. Here, I'll read this. She really doesn't care for her food. She just wants mine. He wants my spot on the chair, even though he has his own. She prefers to lay across me at night, not because she loves me. These are cat lovers who are actually describing their cats. He doesn't show affection to give, but to take. My cat's a total taker. I don't think she cares about me at all. She displays loyalty only because we keep feeding her. I don't think my cat is capable of feeling empathy. Now, I have to be very careful about this because there are cat lovers who are like, so I took quotes from cat lovers. So there are people around you who are just like that. Then they come to listen to your story, even when you call them. I went through this. They listen to you for 2 minutes, and then it's all over. It's all about them. It's all about them. Then there's the hypersensitive, the porcupine, who are like, don't say that. They're gonna just want to. They want to quit the board. They want to quit the church. They won't come play. There's the worship ministers pastors who go to certain churches where's the worship minister? We the music was kind of loud last week, and he didn't want to sing this one song, and it's really what I wanted, and here is the senior pastor tiptoeing around the porcupine. It's so cool. And then there's the know-it-all, which is the peacock, who is all about them. Then there's the octopus, the last one, the fraud, which is the fraud, and people who pretend to be what they're not. A whole bunch of mega pastors, mega leaders, actually frauds. They know how to do the thing, but they're not authentically the thing. So how you deal with those? No, first of all, recognizing you probably won't be able to fix them. Really, this section is coming to terms with difficult people, not necessarily to change them, but to and so in psychology we say about 92 sometimes to 96% of dealing with a problem is recognizing it, is
Yes.
actually
Yes.
acknowledging the problem is there. And you know that sometimes, just like, oh, instead of calling it this, demons, or we tend to become hyper spiritual about these issues. This is my son, he's my son, but he's a taker. And to actually deal with that at that level, you will experience less injury from each interaction. And it's not gonna, and so I can hear some of you thinking, you're judging. No, you're calling the thing a thing. Because if you don't call the thing a thing, you're not dealing with the thing. You're in denial. So, can we talk a little bit about? We're going to talk about that in the book, and especially when we come for the
master class.
the master class, we're going to really get deep dive into that. Lisa gets to read the actual characteristics. You're going to be fascinated. It's a great read, but also it has helped me a lot. I deal with leaders today. Remember, all of this is not so we get rid of people, because if you get rid of every toxic personality, you'll be left alone. A lot of us. And here's what's worse. And we're gonna get the Fatigados on too right now. Next,
Yeah.
there are people that you can't get rid of.
Yeah.
You can't get rid of your son or your daughter or your.
That was my key point for that section.
right.
Yes.
Because there's this idea that you just get rid of them. No. What if it's your husband?
Yeah.
You got married. He loved the Lord. You both love the Lord. 2 years into everything's about him. You are pregnant, but he wants you to fix food. He wants you to do all your chores. It's about him. Everything's about him. So, what do you guys think?
I'm reminded. I saw this episode on a TV show a few days ago. And basically this guy comes in, he's got like scratches, he's got like bites, and he's like bleeding all over. And they're like, how did that happen? And it's like, oh no, my pet did it. Don't worry about it. Let's have that sorted out. And then as the episode unfolds, we find out that pet was actually a tiger that he had adopted as a cub. And isn't that an image of sometimes us bringing in some relationships?
So
at
good.
The beginning, they're like, we see these aggressives, we see these passives in smaller form, and we tolerate it. We're like, no, we can keep it.
Good.
It's just a small tiger. But the thing is, with these, like, they grow, and
They grow.
It comes, it brings devastation to your life. And I think what this book brings is awareness, so that even at cub form, we can see these predators in our lives and not let them get to the point where they're in our house and they're fully formed.
Touching us.
Fully formed.
That's really good.
Yeah,
That's good.
So I think like this brings recognition, which is so helpful as we look at relationships now. Now we have like a checklist that we can go through. It's like, oh, I didn't see that as something negative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It started out so small.
Yeah.
But now that I do, I can deal with it. I could maybe change the way I look at it, or change the way I respond, or maybe determine that this is an area of a relationship. This is a relationship that needs boundaries.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That's
So,
good.
That's my takeaway from that section.
Very
And
good,
I'll bring
Josh.
Anthony
Let's see the
and
Fatigados.
Mary onto the stage.
Yay!
Hello.
Yay! Hi guys.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, so good to have you both. You know the question I ask every single one of our guests as they come on. How did you meet Dr. Dennis and Lisa? And your biggest takeaways from this third section of the book on worms.
Would you like to
Okay.
say?
Anthony's sister Michelle had a gathering in the Chicagoland area, and we came, and it's been over 10 years that we've known you.
Yeah.
I think we're getting closer to 12 years.
Yes.
Wow.
And that was the first time that met Dr. Dennis and Lisa. And I just all of a sudden one day, Anthony's sister had called me and said, hey, do you want to go do ministry? And I just jumped on a plane. It was so not like me.
I remember. Yes. It's awesome.
And, and it one of the first questions you asked me, Dr. Dennis, was, how does your husband feel about you being here?
Mhm.
And that meant a lot, because we've been married 30 years. And so, we've learned to just mesh together and,
Yeah.
Right.
and
It's
do
been
life.
a growing
Yeah.
Yeah.
growing
We love
experience.
you guys. We love you guys.
Yeah.
Love you too.
You got those.
That's beautiful.
So what did you guys think about this section? Sorry, Josh.
No, I was about to ask the same question. So again, great minds think alike.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
When
The
you think
section
about this,
was-
yeah.
It's just, I really, really am enjoying the book. The worms section. Would you like to speak a little more? Get my thoughts together. I'm sorry.
You just think about the worms, like they're in the ground, but when the rain hits, they're on top of the ground and they're just coming all over, and you're trying not to step on them.
Ooh.
It's good, Mary.
Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah. But it's, and I like the part where it was something in there that had stated that rain can hit the spots of a leopard, but their spots don't go away.
Don't go away.
Yeah.
And then, there's also, it's just the spiritual blindness sometimes, especially when we care about the people that we care about.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're living it, and you see things year after year or time after time.
Right, right.
And you want to like shake them and go, just, do you get it? And, because as God only wants the best for us, we also want the best for the people around us that we love.
Yeah.
And we can't get rid of all of them, right? Like
Yeah.
And we don't want to, it's sometimes we have to, as the Lord we walk with the Lord. Also, we are called to walk with people,
right,
until we meet the Lord someday.
And boundaries help, and having living amongst. Sometimes there needs to be there needs to be distance between family members.
Yeah. That's the most more painful. I know Joshua could say something, because that's hard when you realize. Because again, usually the first part of the book, well, if they're foes, you can cut them out, leave them. You don't. But what if you can't?
Yeah,
they're your son or your daughter or your uncle or and they're just toxic or difficult. They're what do you do? And how do you do you need the grace. And you and I we've talked a lot, Anthony, about this, where I just need the grace. Because why? Because I'm going to re-enter this painful relationship that I have no option to cut it off. And I can't fix them.
Right.
Yeah, and then like the sadly, my father just passed away, and there's like relationships with the father or a mother or a son or daughters, and you need to like you want the relationship, but then there needs to be that distance. You guys keep trying and nurturing and so it's difficult to manage those relationships.
And then even us, I mean, in our relationship, there's times where we have to take a time out even from each other. Or we have to come back kind of like, okay, how do we rebuild this? Or how do we fix this? And it's really being on the same page.
And a really big thing when I'm reading this book, I'm thinking about the relationships I have with everybody, people at work, by bosses, by coworkers. But then I'm also looking at the book and thinking to myself, I need to know if I am this way.
Ooh.
How do I fix this?
Whoa.
It's like all of us have, like, I texted you yesterday about what a great book this is, and I put down in the text before I sent it, I put 40 years. Like, where was this book 40 years ago? And then I backtracked and said, hey, 45 years ago.
Ouch.
Wow.
And I'm thinking to myself, man, if I had this information, this knowledge so many years ago, and I'm 61, and I'm thinking about, what do I have, 25 years left?
Hey.
And I want to learn.
Wow.
And Dr. Dennis, I just am so happy to have you as like a, I mean, I'm a little older than you, but you're like a father figure to me.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So your knowledge, your experiences, and that's another thing, the way you grew up in Africa and what you've had to endure. When I think about what I endured, I'm like, oh man, like Doctor, like how like I don't know if I could have gone through what you went through.
Yeah.
And the hardships that you have faced. And I think about my life and I'm like, wow, well, I could do this. So
wow. Amen. Amen.
That's a good thing about stories, isn't it? And about going through the book, because we have so many different examples and stories that Dr. Dennis shares, because it's the power of our testimony. That's his testimony, right? So we get to learn, Anthony and Mary, don't we, from like you're doing, Anthony, you're reflecting right back, like, wow, look at this story he just shared with us. I don't know if I could have. And so, but yet it's a great example. And we learn from that, don't we?
Yeah.
And we learn about, okay, you know what? I don't want to make that mistake, or I don't like, wow, that was really hard. Look at how he handled that. I can do better in my own situation or whatever. Yeah. You know, so that's really good. Thank you for pointing that out, Anthony and Mary. Yeah.
Yeah. As you were talking about like boundaries, I really love this picture of animals, right? There are animals that are meant to be pets and there are animals that are meant to be in the zoo. That you got to really keep your distance. And so there are relationships where you're like, hey, I can keep them around. I can manage them. I can adjust the way I look at them, or adjust the way I treat them, and still have a pleasant relationship despite the presence of the aggressives and the passives. But there are animals that you gotta keep them at bay. Like you cannot run up to that lion and think you're not going to get mauled, right? Setting those boundaries. And I love this picture of animals, so I thought that was really cool. My question for you is, this is a bit of a variation of the question I asked Billy earlier, but then there were a few animals described in the book, enumerated as like images of these toxic traits that come from people throughout relationships.
Right.
And when we think about predators, we don't necessarily recognize every single animal as a predator, but they could be. And so my question is, which of those traits or which of those animals came as a surprise to you as something you should probably be aware of and maybe stay away from? I don't have the list in front of me, but Lisa, I don't know if you know, like off the top of your head, like maybe enumerate for us which those animals are. And then Anthony, Mary, I'd love to hear which one of those were like, I don't recognize that was an unhealthy thing to be around.
A peacock.
Okay,
he's got one right off the top of his head.
What about the peacock?
The know-it-all.
Peacock
is the know-it-all.
Yeah. Well, when it was written, how like they'll chase humans for food, you know. That kind of scared me. Mary and I, we went to the Bahamas, and I was like, we saw some peacocks, and we were like getting close to them, and
they started their feathers.
Yeah, they opened up their
and it was like
they started chasing us.
Wow.
But yet they open their feathers, and we think, wow, how beautiful. So they stun you for a moment, don't they? We look at their beauty, look at me, you know, and then they come in for the chase.
Crazy.
There's a funny story when I was a young man, or not. I was a teenager, and I went. This is it's going to make her laugh. I went to a park and I saw how beautiful some swans were. Well, I stole a swan and I brought it home. I walked it like 3-4 miles And I had a swan as a pet for about a week. And,
Oh.
and mother,
That's hysterical.
oh, and I couldn't contain it. You know, I was like, it was like, it was just something I had to have, but you can't really control a swan.
Right. Yeah. It's really amazing. I'm grateful. I'm grateful that to have you guys in our lives, and you're such a treasure, and I've seen you struggle. I've seen you struggle with the way, because the more black and white thinking you are, the harder it is to deal with. Wait, they know the Lord. Come on. No, they're broken. And really, at the end of the day, we all know that however you are, if you allow Jesus to absolutely undo you, you will be a different person. You will stop manipulating. You will stop, but just like with sin, just because the grace is available, the redemptive power of God is available, very few actually embrace it fully. So a lot of people around us have not been transformed.
Yeah.
And for me, what's scary, and Lisa knows this, we see this at the highest levels.
Yeah.
Some of the people that are like on TV, in the back with the green rooms, they're like absolute peacocks. You need to see them. It's gonna be about them. And if you don't see them, some of them that's Apostle James to you, please. Say good to meet your brother. You can't even say brother to them. You have to say apostle, because you're better, or else, which is look at me. And of course they say, yeah, we have 17 ministries and we've got 17 churches and we've got this, and here's my and you better look. They don't want, and then when somebody comes, this is a strange part, and then I'll stop. Somebody comes and says, have you met to this peacock, right? Who's impressing the room about all those ministries, and they tell him, hey, do you see Pastor Josh here? Oh, Josh has got 600 churches. Oh, you should see the peacock, because now what do you mean he's got 600 churches? Now they want to squash him. They want to show him, I am more. And you look at them and we're like, we just begin shaking our heads. These are little boys who are damaged, that have refused to allow the power of God to change them. And so, but how do we live with them is the big key. So,
right.
Hallelujah.
Well, yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Love you. Thank
God bless
you.
you.
Bless you too. We'll hang around.
All right. And so we will now move on to the final section of our book.
The final section.
So Dr. Dennis, could you please
yes.
summarize this section for us?
Yes, this is the redemptive part of it.
Yay, it's not all bad.
It's not all bad. You get depressed. Here, my goodness, why? Then you get to the treatment, because so what? There's residue. The whole idea is with the mango. You guys have heard us reference, and I have not talked about the mango on purpose because of it's the setup, and I want you to get the book, but also come for the workshop, the masterclass. But because the understanding of this mango is critical, is key. So you bite, and the story goes, I put the mango in my pocket, and I get rid of the mango, and it's left a stain in my pants. And now I have to contend with the people snickering at my wet yellow spot that looks like I peed in my pants. I had an accident, and I have to tell them, no, this is not pee. They're all like, oh yeah, Dennis, yeah, right. No, it's the mango that I had in my pocket that was rotten that left this stain. And we'll look at the stains, and these are just some of them, which is going to be so cool with the masterclass. We'll be able to come up with maybe even 6 more or 7 more. There's betrayal, there's rage, a critical spirit. We'll look at shame and guilt. We'll look at forgiveness, unforgiveness, rejection, emptiness, and confused sexuality. We'll look at loneliness, and what do you do when life has broken you, when you've been stained by a marriage, a kid who left. There's so many parents I talked to that are older who were absolutely traumatized by their now 30-year-old who just left them devastated. What do? You could ignore the stain, or you can treat the stain, or you can throw away the whole thing. And we deal with that in the book, because those are the things you can do. I get home and my mama looks at my little my stain on my yellow pant, my white khaki shorts, and says, "Oh gosh, Mom, do I have to throw this away?" Yes, that's an option. But wait, I only have one pair, so I couldn't throw it away, which is you can't get rid of that relationship. Or you can just ignore it. So walk around with your yellow stain, which a lot of us do, or you can treat the stain, which is the difficult part, which is you're not changing the people, but you're treating the impact of the broken relationships in your life. And so we prescribe what's called the bedroom, which I won't get into because that's the key right there.
Masterclass. No bedroom talk today.
So the bedroom, which is advanced relationship filter that you install, where you can actually become a welcoming. You can welcome, because we're told to love our neighbors, our enemies, love our enemies, even. It's possible to actually heal where you can love everybody. Not be jumpy about anybody. It is actually true, because I do this around the world, and people who are around me, I've taught them you can be so healed that you can be 100% vulnerable to or penetrable, where you can greet anybody, hang out with anybody for a week, for a day, and not be frazzled, because you create what's called a bedroom in your heart, where only a few people come, and we'll give you the criteria for creating that bedroom. So that's the ethos of the last section, and that concludes the book. And,
right.
Woo!
Yeah, and I'm excited to bring on our fourth and final guests. We've got the Debbie's. So I'm going to bring them on the stage right now. Hello.
Boom!
Paul and Evelyn.
Evelyn, Paul. Hi, Paul.
Hey.
Hello.
Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Just
that lovely couple. Yes.
Introduce yourself to us. Share with us how you met Dr. Dennis, and what struck you about this section of the book.
Okay, I think I will start. Well, I met Dr. Dennis in 1986. It's a long time. Actually, it was just after the Civil War. No, actually 85 now. Because
yes, 85. Yeah.
85. And we were doing music in the church. We had one keyboard.
Yes.
A white Casio that we had two keyboard players, but we shared one. Yes. In the middle of the service, then Dennis will come in and Dr. Dennis will come in and play, then I'll play. Or it was just we learned how to share.
Yes.
Back then, because that's all we had, a keyboard.
Right.
Then because he was so kind, he forced himself to learn how to play bass guitar. So he can give me some time to play.
So Paul can play, yes.
So that's way back in 85, and then we started a group, New Wave Band, and then some of us left and started Limitex in London, and the rest is history. I think I've known him the longest.
Yeah, that's almost 40 years.
Yes,
that's
almost 40 years. 40 years next year. Yeah.
I think it's really cool to have you on here as we talk about relationships, because this is a picture of relationships done well. Now, it wasn't perfect. I don't think so.
Way to end. I know.
Ours was perfect.
I think it's really cool to see. I would bet a lot of these principles have been put into practice in your 4 decades of friendship. And so it's so great to end with this. It's also so great to end on a positive note as we talk about like how do we address these difficulties that we have in relationships. So as we talk about treatment, as we talk about stains and the cure, what stood out to you as you read this chapter? Maybe even add in some reflection of like looking at your friendship with Dr. Dennis. How has that come into play?
I think there's so many things I can pull from, but we as me and him and Isaac, we went through so many different situations with people promising things, or churches warning us, or even leaders, as pastors that we trusted, the turning on us, and those injuries. Some of them, I don't know how we even just overcame them, because we didn't have this knowledge that we have, like in this wonderful,
right?
we didn't have all that. I didn't have any of this, but we were able to, by God, just overcome them.
Yes.
But also I think it helped because we had each other.
Yes.
We were able to lean on each other for
the
strength to move on.
Yes.
How about you, Evelyn?
I want Evelyn, because Evelyn, I met Evelyn, of course, after I met Paul, but Evelyn also is a therapist. So when I reached out to of course Paul, hey Paul, would you just read it? So it's so humbling to say, Paul, I have a book. Can you please endorse the book? It was like, what am I doing? Going to my best friend and say, I've read this book, and it's also vulnerable because, can you say something about something? It's because they know me. My friends know me. It's easy to just do my little thing over there, but it was so humbling to hear Paul's words. But also Evelyn, because Evelyn has a different filter, I call it a more sophisticated filter, because she, in her practice, and Evelyn, you'll talk about this, deals with these injuries. And we've talked a lot about the shock of Christians who are injured and really injured, and especially leaders you look up to, and how devastating that is. So talking about stains, Evelyn, what do you think? Is it true we have these injuries? Does Jesus, hallelujah, set us free completely, and we never struggle? Or number one, and then how do you deal with a leader with whom, or somebody with whom you must continue to relate, but they're just broken? And what have you seen?
Wow. Well, first, thank you so much for having us on here. It's such a privilege to be able to be on and to be able to be a part of this and to share. And I would say that, yes, you said, do we all have stains? Absolutely. It's inevitable. If you're a human and you're living in this lifetime, experience some level of brokenheartedness, which Jesus so graciously talks about throughout the scripture. And even when the prophet Isaiah was talking about Jesus, that I came so that I could bind the wounds of the brokenhearted. And that actually means fractured mind, fractured heart, right? So yes, we all have stains. And I do believe that there is a process in the journey that we do need to take to begin to heal from it, because relational trauma often impacts us beyond a surface level. It really can actually impact our brain. It impacts our frontal cortex. It's impacting our amygdala, and the brain then begins to perceive relationships to be right. And so now everything is perceived as a threat, depending on your history with around brokenness or relationships. And so healing is often the road that is less traveled, unfortunately, because healing requires more than just admittance. You guys mentioned that before. We need to admit it. We need to acknowledge, oh my gosh, I think I have relational trauma. Like, I was just having a conversation with my husband yesterday about my own personal journey and how the Lord has healed me from things, but then there's still some things that he's also from, right? And I think it's beyond admittance. I think we have to process the emotions. We have to actually create or be allowed to have a space to be able to process, uncover our core beliefs. Trauma impacts our worldview. It impacts the way we then see.
Right.
You put on lenses, and depending on how many times you've been wounded, you could have like multiple lenses. And then we're looking through those lenses, and then those lenses impact everything. So
you can't see
it. We need to admit it. We need to process it. We need to look at how it's impacted us, look at our core beliefs. And then there comes a point of bringing a resolve. There is a such place. It's not always an easy place, depending on the depth of your trauma or how much fracturing you've had. But there is a such place as resolving it, releasing it, letting it go, and learning how to live in a new way. And it's a process to be able to do that.
That's good, Evelyn.
Now,
Now,
be so healing is liberating, but it's also excruciating.
Right.
Healing isn't always this fun journey that we talk about. I mean, it's a process, right, to walking through painful places in our heart.
Sorry.
Go ahead, John.
I think it's also important to recognize that there are different kinds of wounds. There are wounds that can be treated with a Band-Aid, and there are wounds that need surgery. And so it also takes awareness, like how early could you identify these wounds, these stains in your life? Even just thinking of stains, if a stain is fresh and you get to it right away, it's a lot easier to deal with. You let it sit, you let it, and it's gonna penetrate deep into whatever fabric that is. It's gonna be a lot harder to deal with, and so it really, and it emphasizes for us the awareness. Like sometimes we see a wound and we're like, oh, that's just dirt or something, and so you dismiss it and you let it fester and you let it get worse. So even as we recognize these things, I think beyond awareness, we also need to put it into practice. So I love that you shared that, Evelyn. Dr. Dennis, you were about to say something.
No, it's for the believer, part of what we're going to do, especially when we do the masterclass, because there's a shock, especially depending on your ethos, your theological, what you believe. For us, some of us who are, I call it magical thinking, just because we have the scriptures, I'm just, in the name of Jesus, my husband, you just anoint him. I'm going to anoint him and it's going to stop. And so the shock, though,
there's the bottle.
Right? The shock, Evelyn or Paul, when, oh boy, it didn't work. Or for us, Paul and me, we were seeing some of the most anointed people you've ever seen. When a guy walks into a building and as he's walking, everybody's falling over. Demons are screaming as he's walking from the back, and it does. Sometimes it's theatrics. He decides to go to the back, and as he's walking, everybody just, and so but then you see him after this 6-hour service where you're even afraid to say hello, because you think, oh my God, he's a walking Jesus, because we were young, we were 15, 16. But the guy is rude. He's absolutely a bully. And it's like, wait, what's this? And then he doesn't talk to anybody. One of the greatest men of God in Africa, he wouldn't even greet you back. And we would sometimes we'd bring our mothers, Paul and me, we bring our mothers, right? Mom, oh wow, my mommy, and you say, man of God, my mother's here to say hello. And he looks at you like, and you're like, oh my God. So you say, Mommy, he's gonna see you. So you bring your mom in, and your mom's like, oh, how are you? Praise God. And he's like, where is my water? Where's my tea? And it's like, and your mom is like, she's so embarrassed. Until she has to walk away. And it's like, and we're like, what was that? And then you feel guilty because that was wrong. You want to say, that's rude, but you're not allowed to say that
Mm.
because he's anointed. He's anointed, and that is hard.
Yeah.
When they don't do like Evelyn says, whatever said, when they don't want to do the hard work.
Yeah.
Mm.
Because no, I just want to work in the anointing.
And you know what, Dr. Dennis, thank God, like for you and Paul going through situations like that you didn't, in Josh's analogy, that you didn't let the stains penetrate in so much and learn from that. Like, oh, this, you learned, but you learned the good lesson. This is not how I want to be. And you didn't continue it, because that happens a lot, especially in Africa. You know, my father modeled this stain,
so
but
good,
they don't
Lisa.
see it as a stain because of the lenses, right? And so I'm going to carry on. And thank God, like your generation, you and Paul and Isaac and others there that had the microphone, that had the opportunity to say, we're not going to do this, you know. And both of you, Paul now and Evelyn and you, Dr. Dennis, you all are in industries and in fields that you can really teach others, right, on this. And so, you know, thank you for just not letting that stain penetrate through so much that you carried on that terrible, you know, rudeness, if you want to just so-called say.
Well, not all of us. Remember, Paul, some of us thought part of being anointed is to be rude. And there were some of us who really became, and we're like, what? We were like, we wouldn't let them know. We're like, what? You now won't say hello because it was because we thought that was my spiritual father is doing this. So
most of them were modeling after him.
Yes.
Thinking to be anointed, you don't talk to
don't talk to people.
Sometimes we forget that King Saul was also anointed. Sometimes we look at the anointing, it's like, oh, that's it, you know, God's chosen, right? But we also see like anointed and putting wisdom into practice are two very different things.
Right.
And that's why David was a man after God's own heart, because David, you know, he messed up, he did some things, but he would always come to the point of repentance and submission to God, which Saul didn't have despite his anointing. So it's recognizing wisdom put into practice is so important. And I've got some good news and some bad news. Bad news is we are running out of time. The good news is this is why we have the relationship masterclass. So we can into all these things.
We have 2 days.
Exactly. So I'm going to have, although let's do 2 things as we close. I'd love to bring everybody back on. And in one sentence, please keep it short. We don't have a ton of time. Just say your biggest takeaway. One sentence. We'll go through each one. And then we'll end with Lisa giving us all the details, how to get registered for the masterclass, so that everybody can, you know, get ready in anticipation for that. How does that sound to everybody? Sound good?
Sounds good.
So I'm about to bring back on, we've got Billy, we've got Natalie, we've got Anthony and Mary. So let's go get started. Just as short and sweet. Give us your like one-liner takeaway from today's book launch and from reading the book. Let's start with how we started. Let's start with Billy.
I think my biggest takeaway is that it's a process. That we're all learning, we're all growing, and we're gonna get there, but we're not there yet.
That's
great.
Good.
It's a process. We're all in this process.
Natalie,
share with us your one-liner takeaway.
It's so much inside of this. Just read it, because we all have people in our life and needs to know how to handle it.
Yes, relationships are very, very important. Anthony and Mary, one-liners from both of you.
Very confirming. Loving the book. It's put into words and descriptions of just how to pick your friends and just it's a good recipe of living in my life, in our life together, and just watching how we actually be friends.
Yeah, amazing.
Learn to trust God and learn to walk with Him and hold His hand and walk to Him.
Yeah, cool. Paul and Evelyn, last but not least.
Everyone should come. We'll be there for sure. We just can't wait to be, to sit and learn and grow, and totally excited.
Amen.
I hope that there will be some classes that we can do or hold seminars with this book, because it has everything. You can even do a 7-week seminar.
Wow.
Yeah, that's good, Paul.
See, that's the thinkers. Look at them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Evelyn,
yes, I would say that there's so many takeaways. The book is really, truly captivating. It is really life-changing. It can really change the trajectory of your life. It's introspective. It makes us pause and just look at our external world, but our internal world, so that we can be able to do the work that we need to do. And so I would recommend that everyone read it from both perspectives, reading it for yourself and also for your external world, but for your internal world, and then being able to be an example, to not be all these octopuses and cats and pythons and all that he speaks about. So
yes,
such a transformative now time book for this time and this era that we live in. So
amazing.
Thank you guys.
Yeah. Lisa, I could start and I'll pass it on to you, Lisa. For me, I think as I reflect on this, I realize that the Bible, the Word of God, is not just a list of moral teachings, but also is a guide for a whole life philosophy, how to deal with all aspects of our life, especially including relationships. It's crazy that we go through school learning all these things, math, science, and not take time to talk about relationships.
True. That's good,
People-ology is important.
That's good, Josh. Thank you. I'm going to wrap us up, and then Dr. Dennis, you can do the final before you have to jump off real quick. I wanted to, in regards to the masterclass, we will have more information for everybody on that. I don't have the links or the information for that completely yet. And we will definitely get that to you. But I want to close this. I want to give you just a couple more little nuggets here as we wind up and the sessions here. And I'm going to read you just a few little quotes that I highlighted that really, again, that just kind of brought me to tears when I read these. And it's last part. It says, Dr. Dennis writes, "Friend, this is my challenge for you. Take your life back. It's time to stop the patterns that have so negatively affected you and perhaps even those before you. It's time for a new, healthy you. It's time to deal with your ugly stains." And so we really just have to look in, don't we? We have to do the work. And then he writes in one of his first book he wrote, You Have a Dream. You cannot move into tomorrow with unresolved yesterdays. I think we've all heard Dr. Dennis say this before, but sometimes we find ourselves lost in a forest of relationships, not because of anything we did, but because we got the wrong directions. And I'm sure that we all have gotten wrong directions before in our life, on top of mistakes or things that we did. And Dr. Dennis, I know that you have to go. So very, very quickly, he ends the book in the conclusion part of it. And I really suggest, please, everybody take a really good look. And he talks about how God forms man, breathes life into him, and creates a magnificent habitation. But he finds that Adam was lonely and Adam needed a mate, right? Adam needed somebody to do relationship with, to laugh with, to dance with, to celebrate, to share life with, right? And so we are God's amazing creation, and we must remember that. But we are built for relationships. So buy your book if you haven't bought your copy yet. Join us for the masterclass, and we can't wait to see you next month. Dr. Dennis, you have 2 minutes.
You have a minute.
Let's go.
Yeah, when we were like young, there was these intelligences. It's your IQ was the thing. You're smart. Of course, over the last 20 years or so, they're discovering other quotients, which is other measures of intelligence. A big one, emotional intelligence, your ability to handle pressure. In fact, some companies like Google and all that actually hire more based on that than even your IQ. But in this book, I actually assert a more critical intelligence. RQ, your ability to relate with people. If that's low, you can be smart, you can have you can have ability to do a bunch of things. But if you're rude, when people are older, when they're 80 years old, 85, they actually regret more the relationships they broke, the people they just walked away from, that they could have. There's more relationship regret than I would have bought another car, whatever. No, it's the people that injured me and hurt me, and I couldn't resolve. And so this becomes critical to our development, and is even especially as believers. We're called to love. By this shall men know that you're mine, that you love one another. So can't do people. Jesus says this is how you're gonna know you're mine, the way you do people. So it's critical, and I encourage you to just get it for friends, gift it. We're gonna give a bunch of it away when they don't want me to talk about this part, because I usually start to but also we're gonna create this 2-day workshop, masterclass. The Mutevis will be with us, and a bunch of people with us. So we'll pray. We'll deal with a lot right there. If you can make it to Houston, do come. That's where we're going to have it. But we'll also make sure it's available. But most importantly, just do the hard work. Let's do the hard work of doing relationships, and just heal, and so we can be God's kids. By this shall men know that you're mine. And that we don't keep living like this. So bless you. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for the team. Thank you for all these dear friends. Thank you so much. Thank you, Josh, for arranging this. Thank you, Lisa, for your
job,
praise
Josh.
and organizing this. I love you.
Thank
Grab
you.
your books.
Bye,
It's on
everyone.
Amazon.
Yeah, get your book on Amazon. Thanks for joining us, everyone on Facebook. Thank you. Thank you,
right.
guys.
Thank you.
Guys.
Thank you.
Bye, bye, bye.